Hey guys, it's Abby from Autumn of Pellinor, and today I'm going to be telling you what I read in April and a couple of things I plan to read in May. This is going to be a little rusty because I haven't filmed in a bit, just straight off the bat. So, I read a total of 3 whole books in April. Yeah, I did great. First one took me 15 days to read or something like that, and that is Kittens in the Kitchen by the pseudonym Lucy Daniels. Animal Arc is a series that follows a young girl called Mandy. She was adopted and her parents run a veterinary service in a rural town in Britain. And this always follows her kind of finding animals in need and helping them. They're always like feel-good stories, and it was for the booktube rereadathon prompt to read a genre that you don't read anymore. I don't read kind of animal books anymore, like A Street Cat Named Bob or Marley and Me. I don't read them anymore. I never read those, but as a kid I would read these ones, which are kind of similar. It was good, it was fun, it was nostalgic. I've given it 3 out of 5 stars. I would have given it like at least a 4 at the time. Definitely, I remember loving these books. I mean, it's been read and reread, but it's just obviously not my sort of thing now. And just in case you don't want to go back and watch all my old videos, my cat died at the beginning of April. This was a bad pick. But overall, a nice, sweet book. 3 stars. Then I eventually started catching up on some booktube towards the end of the month. This is, I think it was the 26th of April. I had a heck of a month. And so on the 26th I read the entirety of The End of the Day by Claire North. This is also a pseudonym. I can't remember her real name. She writes under 3 names, her name and 2 different pseudonyms. But anyway, she does a lot of kind of fantasy and sci-fi dipped in, I think it's more just fantasy, steeped in realism, so it's like contemporary with these massive fantasy twists, and I love them so much. This follows a man, a boy, he's kind of like my age, I'm 23, so like in that awkward bracket, who is the harbinger of death. So he goes before death's gonna go visit somewhere, and sometimes he's a warning and sometimes he's a courtesy, and it's all about his job in going and seeing these people either before they die or to warn them that they need to change their path or they will die. It was, obviously I read this in one day. I struggled with this 150 page book for 15 days and then read this 400 page book in one day. I love her writing. This was amazing. I gave it 5 stars. I really do recommend if the synopsis that I just vaguely quickly gave you sounds at all interesting. It was a lot of fun. Claire North's writing is always just so engrossing. This is only the 2nd book I've read by her, and I know she's a favourite author before I picked this book up. It's just a lot of fun. I really love her writing, and I'm really glad that I finally read this. So, woo! And then lastly, Marvel Avengers, the Ultimate Character Guide. I took forever to read this. This, if I just open it, let me find a well-known, this is gonna take forever. I was like, yeah, let me find like a well-known pair, because it's 2 per page. Hey, there we go. Nebula and Nick Fury. Definitely well known in my opinion. So these are just the Avengers, but they also, I mean, Nebula and Nick Fury, you guys probably know. Like, it's the blue one from the Guardians of the Galaxy and like the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. But they also have like ones that you will probably not have heard of if you aren't a comic book reader. I am not. I'll be perfectly honest, I don't read comic books purely because I would need them all to be bound up and they're expensive and I have enough to read. Like, I've got nothing against them and I would read them if someone gave them to me. I just have not delved into that genre yet. And a lot of these characters I either didn't know or I knew from playing. This is where all of the comic book people hate me. A lot of them I was like, ah! I've played as them in this game. It does tell you their story and stuff, just not like in as much detail as the comic. Shut up. My boyfriend got me that a little while ago actually. Did he get me it? or did my parent, I can't remember who got me it, but he plays it with me. And because of that I was like, oh, I know a lot of these characters, and it was really cool to kind of learn a bit more about their background. And even for the well-known characters, not always is their story kind of aligning up with the comics and the films. So I am a big MCU fan, and like I said, I would be perfectly happy to become a big just Marvel fan, but money, and I have almost 200 books that I haven't read already. So, but this was a lot of fun to read, and I'm really glad that I did finally get to it. It's hard to rate this one, like 3 or 4 stars. It's like a non-fiction in a way, because it's just telling you about these characters that have been created, but it's also obviously fiction. So I don't know. It's a weird one. Like, I wouldn't recommend it to non-Marvel fans. Like, you have to care quite a bit about the MCU or a little bit about Marvel to even want to read this. So it's an awkward one. But yes, these are the books that I read. Now, for a little bit of stats. I wrote down the stats because Civ brain. There's not a lot of stats this month because I read 3 books. So in total, this came to 787 pages. This is the least amount of pages I've read so far in a month this year. I was reading 26 pages per day on average, and each book was taking me 10 days on average, because 3 books, 30 days. Same as last time. All of them are paperback. There was 1 book in a series, and the others were standalones. There was 2 adult books and 1 kids book, and they are all from UK authors. The person who's listed as the author for the Marvel book is British. Claire North, there we go, is British, and these are a variety of UK authors, and as far as I'm aware they are all white. The picture that was up for this guy and was white, Claire North is white, and then this I don't know, because it was like an amalgamation of lots of different authors. Because it's on the older side, this series kind of published in the 90s, I would sadly assume that they're white. But who knows. And then yeah, in terms of like gender, male, female, God knows. So those are the stats. Hey! In terms of balancing the books, if I am remembering correctly, which I might not be, I think I had 170 books at the end of last month on my TBR. I read 3 books, so that's went down to 167 books that I have on my TBR, which is still a large number, but I'm content that I'm still getting through it. I'd like to be reading more, obviously. I'd love to actually be reading, but who knows. Now, on to May's TBR. I'm still not really doing TBRs. I'm gonna, next month, I'm gonna start. I have now, I cannot be asked to move the camera. I'll put a picture up. Editing Abby will hate me, but I put a really ugly picture on my Bookstagram, link it down below if you want to follow, of my attempt at a TBR cart. I can't afford a TBR cart. I'm broke. I'm unemployed. This was a basket I found in the garage, and I'm using it as a TBR cart, and this is the closest I'm getting to having a TBR, is just the books that I'm kind of more excited to get to are in this basket box thing. So yeah, next month I'm going to do an actual TBR, this month no, but there are still 2 things I'm going to mention in this video. One of them is my booktube readathon book. So this is hosted by Abby Mac Reads and Alex Wack Reads. I will link, what will I link below? God knows. I'll link something below if I haven't, remind me. And so this month it's a second chance book. I don't wanna really actively don't want to read this book, but it is the only one I can really think of that fits this challenge. I remember reading this challenge at the very end of last year and being like, oh, I'ma have to reread Othello. Alright. I threw this book across the friggin' room when I was reading it. Friggin'? I threw it across the room. I full on hate this book I didn't finish it. I DNF'd it. I hate it. Hate it. Now I need to get it again. But I'm reading it this month. Yay! Also, yes, I'm in pyjamas. We're in lockdown. What are you gonna do? They're also Christmas pyjamas. We're in lockdown. Alright? Leave me alone. My hair is so poofy today. Look at it. I look like Hagrid. I'm not mad, like cute Hagrid, but like, why did they do it? But yes, this, I was just bored. The characters didn't interest me. In fact, they annoyed me. I think I'm okay with unlikable characters. I don't know. I'll have to read some more books with unlikable characters. But this just did not like. So I'm reading that this month. Yay! And then the only other book that I'm going to mention is, because I've already started it, I'm filming this on, what's the date? The 4th. So I have already started this book, and that is The Undertakers Daughter. The Undertaker's Daughter by Kate Mayfield. I wasn't entirely sure what this was, but it turns out that it is a memoir of a girl in the 1950s? I think, maybe 60s? I'm not sure. She's in like the Deep South, as far as I can tell. I don't know what the Deep South is, don't at me. But it seems kind of like Deep Southy. And her dad runs a funeral home. I'm saying this as if it's a fiction book, it's not. Non-fiction, memoir. Her dad ran a funeral home. This is her memoir about that time. It follows Kate when she was younger at her father's funeral home, and just kind of how she dealt with life in the South, and dealing with like Southerners and racism. She's white, but like, as a lot of children seem to be portrayed, a lot of American children back then, they would be raised by someone black in the household, African American, and then would be very confused why everyone was being racist. And that seems to kind of continue with this. And then also just her kind of experiencing the funeral home, which is interesting. And that's everything. That is my May TBR. Kind of. And then the 3 books that I read for April. It's been a heck of a time for a variety of reasons. I have had to kind of adjust. My mum is at work today. I'm batch filming. Ooh, am I batch filming? But my mum works in a school, and they're working differently, not just around the world or even around the country, but different schools in different regions are doing different things. The way my mum's school is working is that they are kind of doing it on rotation. She's a teaching assistant, and one teaching assistant and one teacher will be in for a day, a couple days, and then not be in for ages, just to kind of rotate the staff and make sure everyone's in. But there's only like anywhere between 1 and 10 children going into the school, so they don't need a lot of staff in. So she's been at home, which has been great, but it means I'm not filming, I'm not reading. That's part of the reason why I'm so behind on booktube. So like, it's great having a home, but for my bookish life it's atrocious. I hope you guys are all staying safe, stay home, stay inside, save lives, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.